All right, so right now you should be seeing our newer review of the week, which is Elemental, which I think is officially our first no hype review in a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I can't remember the last one we did. It might have been. Sorry about that. Yeah. Well,
What would
it'll
have been
probably come to
Doctor
me.
Strange? I mean, it would have been something that we had a passing interest in because of the series is attached to,
Yeah.
um, but not
Uh,
anything. It might have been
Mar-
Doctor Strange. Or
Mario.
oh, right, Mario. Okay, so yeah, so
So
we had decent luck with the last one.
yeah. But yeah. But yeah, we decided to watch this movie, which is now on Disney Plus, and it's we've been talking about this movie for a few, since it came out, at least with its box office, because it did, even though it still lost money, it did leg out, and it didn't do as badly as we were expecting it to.
Yeah, it seems to have caught everybody by surprise.
Yeah.
Because let me see here. Well, its opening weekend was just absolutely astounding in terms of, like, man, how do you crater worse than Lightyear?
Yeah.
And if memory serves, worse than Strange World.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Those were both total disasters for Disney. But as we said,
Okay.
this movie ended up legging out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So come on, move a little faster, computer. There we go. On somebody else's Wi-Fi at the moment, so I can't vouch for it.
Okay.
But yeah, so if we go versus Lightyear here on the numbers, which you can't see, but that's a-okay, because I'm going to tell you the numbers for those just listening at home.
Yes.
As the numbers moves like molasses.
So okay, I got it here for you.
Okay.
So it ended up doing 470 476 million total. Um,
And then Lightyear, it didn't even get to like 250, right?
no, it didn't. So yeah, Lightyear was like let's say like 220.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah,
That goes,
218. Yeah.
yeah, it was closer domestically, like
Yeah.
154 versus 118.
Yeah.
But so internationally, it just got smoked,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
which is interesting because the last Toy Story movie had made like 1 billion worldwide.
Yeah, it did. And but of course that was pre, you know, virus of unknown origin.
Pre-virus of unknown origin, and honestly, pre everybody getting sick of Disney's nonsense.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, when I
Um,
was at Toy Story 4, was that 29? Was that a 2019 movie?
yes.
Yeah,
2018. Yeah.
that was like Disney's golden age, where they had so many movies that made $1 billion.
Yeah. And then it just
Yeah.
oh man.
For those of you listening to the or the audiobook version, we both just made a simultaneous, uncoordinated diving motion with our hands
Yes.
by coincidence. But
Yeah.
so this thing comes out. Its opening weekend was 29 million. So it's like, okay, wow, this is like a hyper bomb. Then it legged out, and that's interesting because movies with nothing to them don't usually leg out.
Yeah, and this movie there really isn't much to it. At least plot wise, there isn't. You
Yeah,
know.
I should say
Yeah.
movies without some sort of charm or appeal don't leg out.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that it did manage to, make the best of a bad situation launch wise was always intriguing to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we should probably get into the movie.
Right,
Uh,
right. This is our backstory of why we chose this movie and what was intriguing us about it.
right. Yeah. And yeah, it was, and of course we'd heard a lot of the other stuff that the usual commentary that we've heard about it with regards to Disney and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, although people largely didn't care about this movie enough to rip it a new one. There is no, like, there were like some headlines like "woke elemental fails,"
Yeah.
and then no, everybody forgot it existed, and then everybody looked up and was like, "Wait, how did this thing almost break a half billion?
Yeah.
I thought we buried that back in June."
Yeah. But yeah, so the movie is uh basically a romantic comedy between two people. It's an old kind of trope you see with romance movies of, two people from two different backgrounds, you know
Yep,
f- finding love, falling in love with each other. And in this case, it's a guy who's made out of water and a girl who's made out of fire.
yep. To quote an old whole life meme, "Water in the fire. Why?
Yeah.
Water in the fire. Why? I no understand."
Yeah. Oh, little love doggo chan.
Yeah.
uh,
So I have. Okay, I remember Wade's name. What was her name again?
Ember.
Ember. That's right. So in a world where there are elementals? Question mark. So I think everybody took one look at this premise and said, "Hey, wait, this is basically Zootopia if the fox and the bunny were in love."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and that was my thought when I was watching it. I mean, there's even a scene where the two of them are in a hot air balloon together, just like in Zootopia. Like, come on.
I imagined this scenario where the person pitching this movie from Pixar was in the office with the person pitching Zootopia. Like, we'll just pretend that there was some sort of development hell in this one, which it could have been. Like,
Could
they're
have
both
been.
in there at the same time, and the person from Disney Animation goes in, or actually no, the person from the Disney Animation is the first one to go in, but they go in, they say, "Oh, I have this premise. It's a city full of animals, and every part of the city is built around the different sizes of animal and the different needs of the different species, and there's like a bunch of different climate zones."
Yeah.
And then the next person comes in, and they happen to catch the tail end of that pitch. They go, "Oh crap!" They quickly start erasing things from their, like, erasing words from their written proposal. It's a world where there are a bunch of different elementals, and there are different zones designed for each elemental.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, phew. Okay.
Phew, they still think that Pixar is magic, so they went with it.
Right. Yeah. Uh, but yeah. So the movie starts off where we meet Ember's parents, Bernie and Cinder. Of course, those aren't their real names.
Yeah, they did something kind of clever there, where it's like, "So what are your names?" "It's Sounds of Fire."
Yeah.
How do you spell that?" Then he proceeds to mouth it out slowly with more fire automatopoeias. How about Bernie and Cinder? It's like a very Ellis Island type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, they encounter various, rusticisms when they
Yes.
get there because they're fire, and nobody likes fire or fire elementals because of
They're the fourth wave of immigrants.
right. And they they cause the earth people to burn up, and they cause the water people to evaporate, and
Yeah. So just to give a quick summary, because there isn't a whole lot of plot to get bogged down in.
right.
So
Yeah.
old man Bernie, he runs a fire shop. Like, it seems like they're the first fire people to show up, so they're like the ones making the bedrock of Firetown.
Yeah, I will say the kind of one criticism I do have is they really don't show the fact that they're like the pillar of the community, because it obviously they are, but they didn't get into that too much, but
Yeah, it does seem like the place is like a hub for the fire people in the area,
yeah.
but yeah, it does kind of feel like they should be presented as a bigger deal because again, like they showed up in town. They didn't have a fire town to go to. When I say,
Mm,
I don't think they actually called it Firetown in the movie. They might have, but it's been since Sunday since I saw it.
yeah, yeah. They called it Firetown, but yeah, like the
It's
part
a
of
good
town there,
Firetown.
right? Yeah, yeah. But yeah, then they have a daughter, Ember, and the whole thing is uh the dad is basically training her to take over the store for when he retires,
Hmm.
and it doesn't go well for her because she has a pardon the pun, but a fiery temper.
Boy, stereotypes much.
Yeah, yeah. uh yeah, and so she loses her temper, and then she turns purple and blows up.
Yeah, she
uh
going purple is when you get so angry that you just like go a different color.
yeah. um and and of course, one of the characters, and if you're looking at the poster, he's down in the lower left corner. The little earth elemental kid has a crush on Ember, and he's always trying to ask her out. And of course, he's like, oh, he's got flowers coming out of his
I'm
armpits.
I'm going through puberty. Let me get you. Let me show you. I got flowers where I didn't have flowers before.
Yeah. Yeah. Something only older people would understand. Older viewers would understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For as prominent as he is on the cover, he's really not in the movie.
No, he's maybe two or 3 minutes of screen time.
That
Yeah.
might be generous. I wonder if it's because he is, and also like the weird puberty fixation they have with him there, like where they even have the flower in his armpit.
Yeah. It's very odd. Yeah, there's quite a bit of adult humor in this movie that kind of
Yeah,
make it's kind of like
I know.
is this is
I
yeah,
know one YouTuber I follow who has this guy has like a very large family of foster kids and his own kids.
yeah,
So he has the unfair advantage of he has kids ranging a wide variety of ages that he can take to a movie and report the kid reactions to it.
yeah.
And he said that for his kids, they actually kind of liked this movie better than Into the Spider-Verse.
Hmm.
So I think that kind of allays the question of, would kids find this entertaining or not?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and they probably would, and that might be why it ended up leaking out, because parents would just dump their kids off at the theater. All right, go see this movie, and
Yeah, because what else was there for them this summer, really?
yeah. I mean, this and Spider Verse,
And
and
that was starting to quiet down when this thing started to leg out. And,
right,
and the
yeah,
kids only want to see Oppenheimer so many times.
right, yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyhow, so Ember has one of her flare-ups uh, after dealing with a particularly difficult fire Karen, the worst
yeah,
kind of Karen,
yeah. Yes,
and she has a blow up downstairs which damages the pipes, which floods the basement. And there's like the fair question: wait, I thought we shut off the water ages ago. This is basically toxic to us fire people.
yeah, yeah. That yeah, that's a huge plot hole right there. That I'm just like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why are these pipes even in there in the first place?
I think I can explain it on the movie's terms,
Yeah,
uh, but it's one of those things that's prima facie extremely weird. And,
yeah.
I might be giving the movie too much credit here. But
Okay.
so, anyways, out of the water emerges Wade, a city worker who is trying to investigate a mysterious leak that was happening.
Yes, and he gets sucked into the pipes under the shop, and then of course, he's crying the entire time because he heard Ember's whatever meltdown. He's like, oh, yeah.
I'm
Well,
so sorry.
yeah. And then of course he's looking around, and he's seeing all these code violations, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I gotta
I
write
have to
you
write
up.
you. Oh wait, you mean you tell me that your dad built this whole place himself? Did he get zoning permits? Because
What?
I'm gonna have to add that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and so he leaves, and she tries to chase him down to stop him from doing it, and then uh unsuccessfully, and then he sends it off, but then she just kind of gives this whole, oh, this is all my family has, and this is my dad's dream, and da da da,
What do you know?
and
I was asking while we were watching it. Is there something lower than a beta male? So our zeta male here, of course, gives in to the sob story and decides to devote himself to helping her out.
right, yeah, and so then they basically make a deal with his boss that if they find out where the leak is, then the shop won't be shut down.
Right, because they're trying to figure out, like water had been shut off to the shop ages ago. What's going
Right.
on?
Yeah, and long story short, they end up finding it. It's the one of the canals near Friartown has some holes in it. So they do everything. They try multiple times to seal this leak using different various methods of success and not so successful.
And what they eventually settle on is Ember makes a plug out of tempered glass.
Yes, because one of the things we find out is that she has a talent for melting sand into glass and then turning it into, like,
and reshaping glass and
yeah.
so yeah, so it's like Daniel said, it's a love story. So yeah, it's these two people who are kind of opposites, just realizing that they love each other, and oh, but I'm fire and you're water, can we be together?
Hmm.
It's like that's kind of the non-spoiler, um, uh, you know like what the story is about.
Yeah, yeah, and like we said, like, Wade is just he's a blubbering mess a lot of the time. He's just
Yes.
he comes from a family of blubbering of water elementals too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. So one of the things that I think got this movie tagged with the woke label is that the actor for Wade is non-binary.
Mm.
Um, I heard most people will claim that Wade in the movie is non-binary, but I'm pretty sure people called him a him a lot.
They did, yeah.
So either people were conflating the actor with the character, because I'm guessing a lot of reviewers who went out to say, "Oh, woke Disney trips again," didn't actually see the movie. They
Yeah.
might have conflated the actor with the character.
Right, yeah. And and then, of course, we see the family differences. Of course, with Ember's family, especially her father, he doesn't like water people.
Yeah.
Uh,
To be fair, they didn't like him either.
right, yeah. Um, and so there's she has to, like, keep their relationship a secret. And of course, he shows up in the shop, like, oh, I'm an inspector, and like, no, I'm a food inspector. And then he starts giving them the basically spicy fire food.
Which is like burning hot briquettes.
Yeah. And he just, well,
I think, well, they're not bad if you water them down. Water them down? Water them down? You want to water us down? Get out of
yeah,
my shop.
yeah, yeah. you're you're banned, right.
Which, okay, so that's kind of the broad strokes of the movie.
Mhm.
I have praise and issues with the ending, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Uh, so character wise, actually, no, first off, target audience wise, we've talked before about how it seems like a lot of cartoons that come out of people with a Cal Arts art style are people who really, really wish that it was acceptable for American audiences to watch animations. They have to kind of turn kids' movies into things for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say that this is an example of that, but not in an egregious way.
Yeah. Yeah. And good to see you, Ninja.
Hey, Ninja.
Um, yeah, and they're definitely, like, some, like I was saying, there's some adult stuff in there. Yeah, there is a part in there where Ember says something about kissing my ash or kissing their ash.
Yeah. Um, well, and when Wade first emerges from the water, he looks like he's an Adonis, and like he's like, doing some beefcake poses before the water flows out of him, turning him back to his normal noodle-armed self.
Right. Yeah.
But so, and I think it more or less works. I think that the kids can come along for the ride.
Hmm.
It is kind of a slower paced movie, which I appreciate that they didn't feel the need to constantly throw things at the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, which is easy to do, especially with a kids movie, because I mean, kids, you got to keep them interested all the time. There's
Yeah.
always got to be something going on.
And they do a little bit of that with the background elements of the Water City,
Mhm.
which okay, so I'll stick with the characters for a minute here.
Yeah.
I will say that as much as we were making fun of Wade earlier, he does show some admirable traits. Basically, he and Ember are opposites, not just in terms of physical composition, but in terms of personality too. So it's like
Yes.
if she's mellowing out, he's mellowing up.
Hmm. Yeah.
Getting his man card a bit. I don't know how do you
Yeah.
want
Yeah. Yeah. He does. You know, like you would say, he does act like a beta male sometimes, but there are parts in there where it's like, oh, he is there when it counts. And
to? Yeah,
yeah.
like he is a solid person. I would not mind being friends with a Wade, even if I'd have to occasionally, you know, show up at 1 o'clock in the morning to a sobbing. I haven't seen Mr. Sniffles for 3 hours. I put him out at 10, and he knows he's supposed to be back by midnight.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a flashlight. We'll go find your cat.
Yeah.
He'd be that friend. He'd be that high maintenance friend who would come through in the clutch.
You're like, yeah. Yeah.
Um, I would say that the mom and dad, or Bernie and Cinder, are believable characters. Like they come across as authentic. And you were talking a bit about this before the show, that's the director's experience coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, because Peter Schoen was the director, and he's kind of like the mascot of Pixar. He's been with the company for decades, and if you've seen Up, the kid from Up is based on him. And when he was a kid, he and his parent, or I don't know if he came with them, but I mean, his parents immigrated from Korea, and they uh, started a shop in the Bronx. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so he was definitely drawing on his life experiences, and I would imagine Bernie and Cinder were based on his mom and dad.
Yeah. Wade's family, they are definitely wealthy wasps.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting. If you want to like read a racial thing into it, so the actor is black. He sounds black, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, yes, I really hope he is because I remember seeing a picture of him or them,
Yeah,
them
yeah,
when they first came out.
yeah,
But
yeah.
he mentioned that he and his dad got along like water or like oil and glue or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Um, you almost wonder like, is he mixed race as far as water people go? Are there sub races of the different races? Like,
Probably. Yeah.
did he have a stereotypical African American dad who wanted his kid to be more manly, but his wife wouldn't have it?
Probably. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Like, is that the subtext here? Am I reading too much into it? It's possible,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
it's a question that popped into my head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's same with me. Yeah. I was kind of doing that the whole time when I was watching the movie. I'm like, okay, well, who are they? Who are they emulating here? What ethnicity are they supposed to be here? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say that so those characters are good. The what is the dirt kid here we could have done without. Actually, no, he is in the story to establish early on, oh, mixed race marriages or mixed elemental marriages aren't a thing, or mixed elemental relationships aren't a thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's in a way that because he's a little kid, her brushing him off is easy for her to do. And it's not like, you know, anybody would expect her not to. Like, even if he was a little fire boy, he would say no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I would say that I would say though that the elements outside of the water and fire are extremely underdeveloped.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one air character. Like I said, it was Wade's boss, and she's in it for a very brief period of time. We all we get from her is that she's a big sports fan.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, but yeah, I mean, I would say yeah, the characters are pretty, they're not offensive. I would say,
Yeah, not offensive covers a lot of this movie.
yeah.
Um, One thing I will take issue with is the world building.
Mm,
So you kind of have, okay, so like to bring up the Zootopia example, everybody understands animal people.
yeah,
Even if you're not a furry, like a kid doesn't have to be explained why, Bugs Bunny can walk around and be and act like a human being.
right, yeah,
Everybody just kind of intuitively understands, uh, you know, oh, that's just an animal with human traits or a human with animal traits or whatever.
yes, yeah. Uh, and real quick, ninjas. So it's better than TMNT. Yeah, I would say it's better than TMNT.
Yeah, I'd say much better.
Yeah, but yeah,
It's like, what's an elemental? Are these spirits? Is this a world where the elements are given life?
yeah, they don't really explain that too well. Yeah,
The other thing is that, all right, so the clear metaphor here, I think that we were talking about it before the show. It's like the
mm.
fire people are vaguely Middle Eastern, Indian, Southeast Asian, somewhere. Like I kept getting a Middle Eastern vibe from the dad.
That's interesting. I was getting China Chinese from the dad. Uh,
I suppose the way to resolve this would be to look up the ethnicity of the voice actor and see if he was. I also wonder if he was the same voice actor as the creepy anglerfish uncle from Luca. Because now I think about it, they sounded kind of similar.
Probably. Okay, come on, IMDb.
Well, you pull that up.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you know, they were clearly a metaphor for immigrants. Now, on the question of is this movie woke? Well, they were legal immigrants. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at him. I would say he's. God, he actually looks. Okay, so his name is Ronnie Del Carmen.
oh, okay.
So
So what do you mean? Some of the fire people are Latinx?
oh no, he's Filipino.
Oh, okay,
He's from the Philippines. Okay, so yeah.
okay. So only in a sort of in the sense that they were a Spanish colony and picked up some of the culture, but okay,
Right, yeah, and the yeah, and the actress, the voice actress for the mom for Cinder, she's Persian, so
okay. I can see that.
yeah,
Okay. So they are just anyway. So unless you are the most ardent racist who hates all immigration regardless of legality and the people being brought in,
mm,
you can't look at me and straight in the eye and tell me that it is literally dangerous to be around somebody from another country.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
In fact, the movie poster here, where Ember here is burning through the park bench that they're sitting on,
yeah.
kind of points to like the fundamental world building problem.
Yeah, everywhere the fire elementals have to be careful about where they go and who they're around. Like, so like the scene when Ember is on the train trying to catch Wade, she runs into like a earth elemental and like is a big blush like a blush licking tree thing, and then poof, he's just
It
All
could,
his leaves and everything and bark are gone.
yeah. Um, so it's like, I guess it's kind of a metaphor for them disrupting the local order, but I don't know, like that feels like it almost comes across as something that would come about more from somebody being very negative about immigration when that is not the case with this movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
Eh, There's a lot of things that look kind of cool, but don't actually make any coherent sense.
Hmm.
Like they have these the trains that everyone gets around on, clearly built by the water people, and for whatever reason, these are trains that are suspended on on water
Yeah,
instead of having a track. So it's almost
yeah.
so it's like having um, a big a big water slide,
Right.
which
Yeah.
outside of the engineering questions of how the hell that would possibly work,
Yeah.
uh, it's also like they're just constantly sloshing water all over the place, which is actually the basis for the plot where the canal is broken and there's water flooding all over the place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because the ships from this uh wherever the canal or thing area, like, it was knocking the water into the spillway. Yeah.
Which this would be a bit like if every time a delivery truck went through Chinatown, it accidentally released a puff of sarin gas that they had to be careful of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I was saying that when we were watching this. I'm like it's having that train with the water spilling out in a fire down. It's like that's like a big fu to the fire people.
Yeah, when it's
Jeez.
right next to Firetown too.
Yeah.
And there's actually a scene that one reviewer I saw did point this out. They're trying to break into this place where they have this flower, this rare flower that can grow in any environment. That is a clear metaphor for unity or whatever.
Right.
Get to the problem with that in a second. But the two of them, Wade and Ember, just walk through a chain link fence like it isn't there, and they ask, "Why do these even exist?" That is a bad question from a world building perspective.
Yeah, yeah. It might be a funny little scene, but obviously it was written in there to be a funny little scene. But yeah, it just doesn't work.
It undermines the coherency of your fantasy universe.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, and the reason Wade takes Ember to see the flower is because Ember and Bernie, her father, went tried to go see it, but they wouldn't let him in because they were fire.
Right? You'll burn the plant.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a and they were saying like, "Oh, this is a plant that can grow anywhere, including water and even fireland."
Yeah.
It's like that's clearly the metaphor for togetherness, which is convenient because the flower garden had been flooded, but they were able to put her in a bubble and have this nice under water adventure that was like probably one of the visual showpieces for the or set pieces for the movie that was the most impressive.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but then I asked the question, wait, if this is a plant that can grow in literally any environment, why is this thing rare? Shouldn't by now, if it can propagate and grow through the water, shouldn't it be casting seeds everywhere? Shouldn't this thing be a menace to the city as it's taking over the local ecosystem?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it would be just a horrible weed that they're having to try to kill, and they just can't kill it.
If
Yeah.
it can grow on anything, it should be like growing from the sides of buildings, drilling through the concrete.
Yeah.
Now you might say, DB, you and Daniel are overthinking this dumb kids movie. Just turn off your brain and have fun. Well,
Mhm,
to bring up the Zootopia example again, Zootopia was very well thought through,
mhm. Yeah.
and like I feel like this. I feel like the setting was designed for the visuals, and then any sort of logic was, if it ever came up at all, was like after the fact.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It definitely felt like a making up as they went along, kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and that also brings itself into the into the ending, which spoiler alert if you've managed to watch us rant about this movie for 30 minutes at this point,
Yeah.
not counting our introduction.
Yeah.
Uh, so Ember's fix is temporary. Her tempered glass breaks, and there's a huge flood that threatens to wipe out Firetown. And she
Yeah.
and Wade get trapped, and Wade sacrifices himself heroically because she has to. They're stuck in this place together, and he'll evaporate. He's like, "Hey, as long as you're okay." But he just
Yeah.
turns it to steam, so everything's okay, and they get together.
Yes, and of course, Ember decides that she doesn't want to run the store, um, and so and then they uh, uh, they sell it to it sounds like Bernie sells it to like this couple that were always in the shop all the time.
Yeah, they were running the shop now, and which is
Yeah,
interesting because if they were just hanging out in the shop all the time, where did they get the money to buy the shop?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what kind of sweetheart deal did he cut them? The you don't have an heir deal.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
so yeah, so I would say this is a movie that is meant to be felt and not thought about because every time I thought about it, it did not do the movie any favors.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of those rare Disney movies where there's no antagonist.
Oh, all too common these days.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. Like the only villain in this movie was poor city planning, and maybe like, the closer you could get would be somebody siphoning off repair funds for the canal for to buy themselves a yacht or something.
Yeah. Yeah. They got some like slush fund going or something. Yeah. But well, that probably would have been too complicated for a kids movie.
Yeah, though. I mean, that's kind of what they did in Zootopia. Maybe that's why they changed it. Maybe
Yeah.
but I mean, like they brought up a lot of things like building violations and things like that that a kid wouldn't necessarily have a concept of.
That's true. Yeah.
So so I'll say like I liked the characters well enough. Like early on, neither character made a very good first impression, but that was by design. They grew over time and evened each other out, and you kind of did see what they saw in each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like on a romance level, serviceable enough. On a world building level, not quite a miserable failure because it at least has a cool visual idea of what it wants to be.
Yeah.
And then the animation itself, I never got used to how the fire people looked. Never.
Yeah. It was hard to focus on them.
Yeah, because like, well, now I did read somewhere that when they were conceptualizing this movie, they they greenlit it with no idea how they were going to pull off some of the effects, specifically the water people effects.
Oh. Okay.
Um, so I will compliment the ambition,
Oh. Okay.
and yeah, so this is something that came up while I was looking for an image for today, and I'm thinking that this is like that definitely kind of looks like a vaguely Tumblr-y style, and I've seen a few CGI movies now that have tried to do that, and this definitely looks better than what do you call it? The what was that one with the animal gangsters from last year?
Oh.
The heist movie.
Yeah. I can't remember what
I
it.
watched half an hour of that and couldn't stand the character designs anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I know the movie you're talking. There were wolves, weren't they?
Yeah, like there
Yeah,
was a wolf and a spider and a snake and
yeah, yeah,
the bad
yeah.
guys. I think it was the bad guys. That sounds
The
right.
bad guys, yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
so I just don't think it translates very well to 3D, and that might have been part of what this movie was suffering under. Because, like, in my opinion, the cloud people looked like crap.
Mm,
Like they were just not appealing designs in the slightest. Because everybody had this huge bulbous head
yeah,
and tiny little bodies, and uh, in fact, they even got there was art like this in the end credits
yeah,
as they were showing the different characters. And I said, okay, so this was Tumblr style originally.
Yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of Disney movies that they in the end credits you see that art style like Big Hero
Yeah.
6 had it. Yeah,
And Luca was similar. Like Luca was a similar sort of Tumblr style as this.
yeah,
And if I had to, go with what did I like better, I think I got much more tired of Luca by the end of it than this.
hmm,
And Luca was like a very small movie because it took place in just one little area, more or less.
yeah,
Where this at least felt like they had some variety to it.
yeah, yeah. You go from Firetown to the main city, and then all the
The
surrounding
water
parts of
villa.
water. Yeah, yeah,
Uh, uh, also, but I would say from a CGI perspective, everything that wasn't a character was actually really good.
yeah,
Um, like the effects where Ember was melting glass, or they were making the charcoal briquettes as fire nuts, or whatever they call them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I find myself having mixed feelings about this one, but for a final review. But Daniel, you go ahead and go first because I think you have less mixed feelings than I did.
Yeah, I thought it. I mean, it starts off okay, like like you were saying. It's kind of hard to. It was hard for me to kind of get to and to get invested in the characters, but then um, yeah, it's a again, no pun intended, a slow burn. Uh, but it was. I mean, to quote a former American Idol judge, Randy Jackson, it was all right for me. You know, it was. I
Yeah,
mean, certainly not. Certainly not the worst Pixar movie ever, but I would definitely put it kind of like lower half. I mean, if you're looking at like gold standard Pixar movies like Toy Story, Bugs Life, the first Incredibles, it's not in there. But it's
yeah, it's not going to hurt anybody for having spent the time to watch it.
right, yeah,
I was reasonably entertained. I think it's kind of disappointed. I like it more than you did, and I dislike it more than you did. I think it's like the parts I liked, I actually really found myself enjoying, and the parts I didn't were just kind of tiresome. I think it's because they had the character beats down. They just didn't quite have the setting or the plot.
right, yeah, yeah,
Because like, let me give you an example of something that we talked about. They had the story of how her parents ended up in the elemental city.
right,
And the
yeah,
story was entirely the entirety of the story was there was a big storm back in their town, or back in their home, and it seemed like just specifically their home got destroyed. And so
yeah.
rather than the other fire people chipping in as a community to help them rebuild their one and only house that was damaged in the community, oh, we got to go to the, to the elemental city.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what happened with with the Flanders family and the Simpsons when when their house got taken out by a hurricane. At
Yeah,
least yeah, at least the people in Springfield actually tried to rebuild their house.
yeah, even if they didn't do it well.
Yeah,
So it's like I kind of get where they had to give them a reason that they had to come to a place where they knew that they weren't going to be liked, or that they weren't going to like the others.
yeah,
But and it's like you couldn't exactly make up General Fire Daffy doing a coup in fire a military coup to take over Fireland and impose his rule, and the parents had to leave, because that would introduce a whole plot line that you'd expect some sort of payoff on.
right, yeah,
And you wouldn't want it. And it occurs to me, as even as I start thinking about it, you would absolutely never see Disney do a story where it turned out that the villains were Fireland extremists who were striking against the city for their mistreatment of the fire people, who were secretly agents of General Fire Daffy.
oh yeah, yeah,
Like, I'm not gonna lie, that might have been a more interesting movie, just for
yeah,
but people would have, like, whatever Middle Easterny elements I thought that the parents, the family had, boy, that would have really immediately clarified it as what people would take them as, and I don't think people would have liked that.
no, no,
It,
it would,
it,
yeah, yeah,
so, but still, like, I think that's like kind of emblematic of the problems of the plot. There isn't an antagonist. The only antagonist is racism, and it's relatively easily combated racism, but it's also racism that has a point.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the fire people and the water people are literally a danger to each other just being in the same area.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
every time a fire person gets wet, they have to quickly eat a log or else a piece of their body is just gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah.
It's like, if a, I don't know, I'm just gonna be, if a if a Japanese person and an Argentinian person are sharing a bus together, if the Argentinian person accidentally trips and falls on them, half of the Japanese person's body doesn't immediately vanish.
Right. Yeah.
So there's, it's like, I'd say it's a solid enough movie. If you have kids, they'll probably enjoy it because they won't be thinking about the stuff like being a killjoy like I'm being or like we're being.
Yeah.
But as a writer, it's like this just needed like one more draft. This needed somebody to question some design choices. This needed somebody to go. Honestly, it needed a John Lasseter
Yeah, it did.
because I think he would have polished this into something great.
I think so too. Yeah. Of course, we all know what happened with him.
I as well know.
Yeah. Jeez. But yeah, like I said, it's on Disney Plus if anyone out there is interested in watching it.
Yep. After we spent almost the run length of the movie talking about it, but
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? We had thoughts.
Yes, we did.